I wonder if we can just lift up our hands right now. And can we just sing give honor to this church. Brother Nate Miller, we give honor to you and this church. We love you very dearly. What about this praise team? Haven't they done a phenomenal job? Wonderful job. We give honor to you. Got just a couple real quick announcements I want to get out of the way, if that's okay. Somebody say April 20th.
April 20th.
That's the next youth rally at Brother Oliver's church in Mayfield. Somebody say April 21st. The very next day is our statewide youth rally in Calvary Apostolic in Louisville, Kentucky. I know some of you may not be able to make it to both, but if you could, we would greatly appreciate it. Is anybody excited about what God's doing in Section 4? I don't know about you, but we can experience revival in our church. And I believe that every church in this section is being filled with seeing people filled with the Holy Ghost, spiritual revival. We're very excited about that. And if you have any youth rally banners, if you have any banner sheets that has not been filled out yet, or if you filled them out and you haven't turned it in, whenever we take up the offer, if you would just bring those and toss those, or bring them to myself, and we'll get those turned in. How many loves the church here today? Anybody love the church? If you're a preacher or pastor, if your pastor's here, if you're a minister or youth pastor, we'd like you to stand all across the house. Let's give our ministers, our pastors, to you and to God, and most of you wouldn't be here today. I'm thankful for a man of God in my life. So, everybody, if you would, just real quick, everybody just stand to your feet real fast. And I want you to go to somebody that you haven't talked to yet, or maybe somebody you haven't seen and tell them it's nice to see them in the house of God. Just real quick, just shake somebody's hand and say, it's good to see you here. Now that you shook somebody's hand, I wish if anybody excited about giving an offering. It was pretty exciting to get out and shake everybody's hand. So how about you put that same excitement into it and give it to God? Is anybody excited about giving to God? So brother, if you would, please come with the offering table. We're going to set it up here. If you would, please give as God has blessed you as His praise takes place for in his aisle right there. But Brother Perry, he sent me a picture a few weeks ago, and he had his youth rally banner posted up, strung up in his youth room. So if you would, whoever wins the banner next, please post pictures of this on Facebook, on our sectional page, so we can share this. Okay? Can anybody do that? Can anybody do that? Is anybody excited about who's going to get the banner? In third place, all the way from Millsy, Kentucky, Star Bethlehem Church. In second place, all the way from Madisonville, Kentucky, Greater Lighthouse. I'm just going to say this was a really close race, by the way. But in first place, he's a no-show to most of his rallies. But we give it to our brother Oliver from Mayfield, Kentucky. So, love Brother Oliver very much. I just have to pick on him, you know. He's fixing to throw a chair at me, but hey, if you can't have fun in the house of God, you can't have fun nowhere. Is that right? So is anybody here to preach hard or not? I don't know about you, but I'm excited about having Brother Jerry West with us here tonight. Anybody excited about being our new president of ministry to us? Let's give it up for Brother Nathan Miller.
You may be seated. Man, how many of you appreciate your sexual youth director? Appreciate you, Brother Seth. Man, we're so excited to have every one of you here. I know it's a little tight, a little packed out. That's a good problem to have, amen? I was reading in John, the 2nd chapter. They always know this for longer. Jesus' first miracle. He asked him to help them with their situation. There's no more wine in this wedding. There's no more good stuff. And if you understand the culture of that day, just to make it simple, I mean, has anybody ever wondered why Jesus turned water into wine? Anybody ever had that question? Just like, what was so significant about that? You see, culturally, it would have been an embarrassment if they ran out of wine for that many people. Not like us running out of chairs for this many people. But Jesus was so concerned about a young couple's embarrassment that this is something that we may not understand in the 21st century, but in that time, that was something that they would live with for the rest of their marriage. I think I just got a hallelujah right there. Amen. And so Jesus was so concerned about a young couple's embarrassment that he saved the day. And if I can leave anything with you before I bring this wonderful man of God, he's going to do a tremendous job tonight. Amen. But when you're struggling with your self-esteem problems, you're struggling with things in your life, maybe your family isn't like everybody else's. Maybe things in your school is not going the way that you would like it to go. But let me tell you this, that God cares enough about you that he will take the even most minute situation and answer the need. Young lady, you don't have to be embarrassed of who you are. Young man, you don't have to be embarrassed to be a man of God. Hallelujah. Can I get a witness in the house? You don't have to be ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ, because no matter what you're facing, he's always going to be there for you. He's always going to be there in the valley. He's always going to be there when no one else is around. So you got a right to lift your head up when you walk through the halls of your class. You got a right to lift your head up when you go down the mall because you've been blood bought, you've been sanctified, you've been filled with the Holy Ghost, and you have a reason to put a smile on your face because He's given you something greater. It's the new wine that's within you today. So, I'm not going to be ashamed. And in that midnight hour when I'm all alone, don't you dare think, don't you listen to that devil when he tells you that Jesus doesn't hear you. Because He's concerned about the littlest things. Amen. You are on His mind, young people. Amen. One more time, why don't we just stand to our feet and lift our hands to the Lord and just thank Him for His love and kindness to us. That even the most smallest thing in our life, He's got concerns. He cares. He loves us. He saw us beyond who we were, and He picked us up. He drew us out. He loved us, and He wrapped His arms around us. Amen. He loves us so much that it doesn't matter what situation you came here tonight with, you can leave this place renewed, refreshed with the new wine of the Holy Ghost tonight. Amen. So thrilled to have our Kentucky District Youth President with us tonight. He had to deal with me for a few years, and I don't know how he did it, but he made it. Amen. And I'm thankful for him and his ministry, and I'm thankful for what he's done in this district for the youth department. Amen. Amen. How many of you appreciate the youth president? He's going to have a great word for us tonight. How many of you are going to preach with the preacher? Amen? If you're going to preach with him, won't you clap your hands for him and the Lord as He makes His way? Everybody say, God bless Brother Jerry.
Good to be in Cadiz today. And we're going to just get right into the word of the Lord. I want to say thank you, Brother Nathan, for inviting me to come back to section number 4. We love section number 4. Aren't you glad to be a part of section 4? It's a great section. And, it's been a while since I've been here, so thanks for the invitation. And last time I came in section number 4, Brother Nathan wore ties to youth rallies. But now he's lost his tie, he's lost his hair. Lord have mercy. I love you, Brother Nate. You've honored all the pastors, all the youth pastors here in the church, in the ministry. We honor you. And the students of Section 4. Man, what a great rally tonight. Thank you for your worship. We're going to be going to Genesis chapter number 32 here in just a few moments. You know, it's interesting to me that in every generation there are phrases and sayings and things that catch on. Every generation has them, and it's an unspoken rule, or at least it should be, that that those sayings or those phrases need to stay in their generation. That makes sense? For instance, there's nothing more strange than hearing a 40-year-old person say, "Cash me outside." Or your mom sending you a Snapchat saying, "My outfit is lit, fire emoji, fire emoji." Some things just need to stay in the generation, right? But there's one saying, one thing that has become popular, one thing that this generation has been saying. But if it's okay, I think it's probably all right if my generation steals it and if every generation can say it, because I think we can all identify with this particular saying. And it is that the struggle is real. How many know the struggle is real? I don't even know. Come on, somebody. I know the struggle is real. And I don't even got to start preaching right now. Some of you about to shout your hair down. You had one of those weeks and you just say, "Man, the struggle has been real this week." What about this? When you try to get on the Wi-Fi and you don't have very good signal. The struggle It's real. Let's see what else we got tonight. What about when you want some bacon, but all you got is your hair iron? And you got to cook your bacon with a hair iron. That's when you know the struggle. You're too lazy to go to the kitchen, so you fry it up in bed. The struggle's real. Let's see the next one. My man wanted some Beats headphones. For him, the struggle's real. Let's go to the next one. Now, I don't even got to go there. When it has gotten so bad and the supplies have gotten so low that you'll do this to yourself, the struggle, it's real. It's real. Really, really real. Oh, man. When you're trying to reach something but your arms are too short, the struggle is real. I think I got one more.
No.
Was that it? Okay, well, okay. The struggle is real. Look over at your neighbor and say the struggle's real. Going in the Word of God today to the book of Genesis, chapter number 32, the 24th verse. The Bible says this, and Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled or struggled a man with him until the breaking of the day. I want to preach to you tonight about the struggle is real. One more time, would you just clap your hands to the Lord and thank God for His presence in this place? Lord, we worship you. You're great and great that you're Hallelujah. Amen. You can be seated as I continue to stand. The struggle's about to be real for me. Have you ever been alone, there was nobody around you, you're just all by yourself? I remember as a kid, one of my favorite things was being left alone at the house all by myself in the daytime. There's nothing like it. You can open up any cabinet, you can look in any drawer, you can have as much candy and snacks as you want to. I love being left alone in the daytime, but I also remember the first time I was left alone at night. And can I tell you, and maybe there's an amen in the house to this, that there is something totally different about being left alone at night.
Amen. Yeah.
The house starts making all kinds of crazy sounds. There's people looking in the windows.
Yeah.
When you're left alone at night, it feels completely different.
Yeah.
I also remember the feeling, and the house is mainly full of teenagers, so most of you can probably already identify with this, but I remember the feeling that I wanted to live alone. I was ready to move out. Anybody say, I am ready to get out of my parents' house and be on my own? I gotta tell you, everyone who didn't raise your hand, you're done. I remember I wanted to get away from the people who made all the rules about when I had to be in, when I had to wake up, what to pick up. I just wanted to be alone. I moved out on my own just before my 17th birthday. I graduated a little early, and I wanted to get away, so I moved into a little apartment by the church. Somehow I convinced the church to let me rent it out. It was pretty terrible. I thought, okay, I'm finally alone. But you know what I found out very quickly? I am terrible at being alone. Because the clothes started piling up. Dishes were in the sink. I cooked one time. Only one time I can remember. The first time I was living on my own, I cooked spaghetti. I put the dishes in the sink. I never washed the dishes that were in the sink. And true story, finally somebody called me one day and said they were coming over. I just took all the dishes, all the pots and the pans, and I threw them away. I said, okay, we're just going to start over. I wasn't good at being alone. But I want to tell you today, students, that you must understand and know that while you may want to live by yourself and you may look forward to the day when your parents aren't looking over your shoulder and barking orders to you, telling you to get up and brush your teeth and fix your hair and do everything that parents do, that you were not created to live alone. I'm not talking about a living arrangement tonight. I'm talking about a life arrangement. You were not created to live life alone. The first time recorded in the scripture that God said that something wasn't good, after He said that the night and the day were good, that the earth was good, that the animals were good, that everything was very good, He looked at man and He said, it is not good that he live alone, that he be alone. Now there's a pickup line for some of you for after church tonight. It is not good that I be alone. That's what the preacher said. I want you to hear me tonight, students. You were not created to live your life alone. It is a lie of the devil that says you don't need anybody in your life, that you can do everything all by yourself. It's not good to be alone. You were created for relationships. You were created to be a part of a community. You were created to be a part of the church. And it doesn't matter whether you were raised in it, dragged to it, born into it, or just introduced to it. You were created to be a part of God's church. And I've come to tell you today, you were not created to live alone. You were created to be a part of the church. God put you in the middle of His glorious church, and you cannot live without it.
Amen.
Tell me something. Why is it that the best thing God ever created is the thing that we fit into our lives last? If there's no ball game, or if there's no homework, or if my friend is showing up, or if the right preacher is preaching, or if I don't have a date, or if nothing else is going on, then maybe I'll fit church into my schedule. I come to remind somebody today that you've got to make up your mind. I am not going to live alone. I'm going to be right in the middle of God's community for me. I'm going to be in the church. David said, I'd rather be a doorkeeper in the house of the Lord than to dwell in the tents of the wicked. You're going to find me in the church. You're going to find me involved in the church. You're going to find me committed to the church. My feet are going to be planted in a church. Come on, somebody. I'm going to be more than going to a church. I'm going to be the church. I'm going to be what God has called me to be. Because I know that God created me for community.
Amen.
God did not create you to be a loner. It's not God's will for your life that you would shut everybody out. That you say, well, I've got my own back. I'm going to look out for number one. I don't need anybody else.
Come on.
Can I tell you that's just pride and deception? Come on, yeah. The wise preacher Solomon said, woe to him that is alone. Paul said it this way, not forsaking the assembling of yourselves together. I need the church. I got to be in the church. When the doors are open, you're going to find me in the church. You're going to find me on the front row of the church. You're going to find me worshiping in the church, praying in the church, believing in the church. I'm going to be what God has called me to be, because the greatest thing that God ever put together on the earth, He created for me to be a part of.
Amen.
The beautiful thing about the church is that when you are in it, you are a part of a body. You aren't alone. There's community, there's accountability, and there's strength. This is what Paul said in 1 Corinthians 12. But now there are many members, yet but one body. That's the church. And the eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of thee, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. Nay, much more those members of the body which seem to be more feeble are necessary. And those members of the body which we think to be less honorable, upon these we bestow more abundant honor. And our uncomely parts have more abundant comeliness. For our comely parts have no need, but God has tempered the body together. God put this thing together. Amen. You didn't put it together. You didn't design it. God designed it. And He put it together where everybody would fit together and we would make one body. We may not look the same. We may not act the same. We may not smell the same. But we're all in one body. We are a part of the church of the living God. And then I come to tell you, you got to fall in love with the church. You got to be thankful for the church. God put you in it. God, He directed your steps. He ordered your steps to put you in the church that you're in. He said this, knowing this, that verse number 25, that there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care one for another. You were not created to live alone. You belong in the church. And you may feel insignificant, but Jesus says in His Word that you have great significance. Jesus says in His Word that there is a great part for you in the body. It may seem unnecessary. It may seem feeble and weak, but it is necessary. You belong in the church.
Yeah.
God forbid that anyone in your youth group ever feel like they don't belong in the church. The church is not the place for cliques or outcasts.
Amen.
We weren't created to live alone or be loners. We were created to be together. He said, you've got to understand that there can't be any schism in the body, but we've got to have care one for another. Come on, somebody. You want to love one another. You want to make everybody in your church feel like they belong. You say, well, they don't look right. They don't act right. They don't smell right. They are a part of the body. And they were not created to live alone. I like what one preacher said, the church ought to be easy to get in, but hard to get out of. That's the way it ought to be in your church.
Amen.
We were created to be a part of the church. And can I tell you that being together is about a lot more than proximity? Because you can be at a table with people and still be far away from them. One psychologist described it as being alone together. Our culture is trying to break down relationships. Our technology makes us feel like we're more connected, but we've never been more apart.
Amen.
You were created not to be alone, but to be in a community. When the only way we can talk to one another is through texts and emojis and gifts, we need to take a look at ourselves and put our phone down every once in a while and begin to pray together and worship together and pray for one another. Come on, what your friends need isn't for you to send them another pray hands emoji. They need you to wrap your hands around them and begin to pray together. Come on, somebody, you need to fall in love with the church. And that means falling in love with the person beside you, saying, we're in this thing together. You may not look like me, you may not act like me, but we're a part of the same body. I was created for the church. Hallelujah. You see it. The second thing we must understand after we know that we were not created to live alone is that we are not in this thing alone. It's a lie of Satan that says you're by yourself. You're not in this life alone. The Bible tells us that the great prophet Elijah experienced the same emotion. He thought he was all by himself. This is what Paul says about it in Romans 11:3. Lord, they have killed thy prophets and digged down thine altars, and I am left alone, and they seek my life. But what said the answer of God unto him? I have reserved unto myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. Even so then at this present time, Paul's talking about now, there is a remnant according to the election of grace. Can I tell you that sometimes you may feel like you're the only one that wants to live for God, but I come against that idea today in the name of Jesus, and I tell you, you are not in this thing alone. You may feel like you're the only one that wants to worship, but you're not alone. You may feel like you're the only one that wants to live holy, not alone. You may feel like you're the only one that wants to do something for God, but you are not alone. Even when you can't see anybody else there, God says, I'm reserved. A friend may walk away from God, but you're not alone. You may be the only one clapping on Sunday morning, but rest assured you're not the only one worshiping. You're not alone. Your friend may not do it, but you're not alone. The devil's a liar. God is with me. I'm not alone. 34,000 students attended North American Youth Congress in Indianapolis. Not alone. Over 700 students have registered to attend an Apostolic Youth Corps mission trip in 2018. You are not alone. There are Bible clubs that are popping up in schools all over the country. You are not alone. You need to look around and realize you are a part of a glorious church. And even when I feel like I'm by myself, I know that God has an army that He's raising up, and I'm going to stay in the church. Brother Seth told me the story just a few minutes ago before service. A young lady, not been in church maybe a year and a half. She's been working with the local P7 club. And this girl, well, just last week, I guess last Friday, came to her, began to ask her questions about why she lives the way she does, why she dresses the way she does, why she acts the way she does. So she went to Brother Sabbath and Sister Tiffany and said, well, what do I do about this? They said, teach her a Bible study. So you know what she did? Taught her a Bible study. And you know what happened Wednesday night? She taught the Bible study on Monday, and Wednesday night she was surrounded by young people at an altar as God filled her with the gift of the Holy Ghost. Hear me. You may think you're walking into your school all by yourself, but there's thousands upon thousands of young people who are living like you and dressing like you and worshiping the God you worship, and who are walking in high school saying, I'm going to teach you a Bible study. I'm going to live right and act right, and God begins to move. You're not alone.
Come on.
You were created to live alone.
That's right.
You're not in this thing alone.
That's right.
But what I've really come to preach to you today, and what we must all come to understand and embrace, is that although we were not created to live alone, and although we're never truly alone, in the sense that God is always with us and there are many who are serving God, we must learn to embrace the moments of struggle that come when we are left alone. The Bible has a lot to say about Jacob. He was born grabbing the heel of his brother. Because of that one moment, he would spend his childhood hearing a name called out to him. A name that served as a reminder of who and what he was.
Yeah.
He was a deceiver, a heel grabber, a supplanter. He was the one that was always looking for a way to get ahead. It's who he was. And you find in the life of Jacob that he made sure he lived up to his name. Anytime he would get around somebody, he lived up to the name. If it was his brother, he'd find a way to get ahead. If it was his dad, he'd find a way to deceive him. He knew what it was like to get alone with certain people and get ahead. His life was defined by his name, by his shortcomings. Everybody he was left with, he would trick. He would find a way to get ahead. And I don't have time tonight to get into the entire story, but Jacob runs away in fear of his life, and time passes. And one night he sends his family ahead, and the Bible tells us in our text that we read tonight that he was left alone. Yet it wasn't long before a man comes along, and suddenly Jacob is left alone with an angel that he begins to wrestle with. And Jacob is wrestling with one purpose. The same purpose that has driven him his entire life. He wanted to get ahead. He wanted a blessing. But really, that's what he had been looking for all along. He wanted the birthright blessing. He wanted another blessing. And now he's wrestling with the man, being who he is, trying to get ahead and get something from this mysterious man he's wrestling with. But he isn't just alone. You see, this time he's left alone with God. And finally, he lets it out that he will not stop struggling. That he won't let go. He won't stop wrestling until he gets a blessing. And it's in this moment, students, that Jacob realizes that he's wrestling with the thing that wants to redefine him. He says, "What's your name?" Well, it's Jacob. It's deceiver. It's supplanter. You see, when he got alone with God, he wasn't going to be able to deceive. He wasn't going to be able to pull the wool over God's eyes. If he was going to get the blessing from God that he desired, he was going to have to open himself up and be transparent about who he was and about what he was. And yet when he got alone with God and was willing to open himself up, God began to speak into his heart and life. You see, God met him there, and when he admitted who he was and what he was, it was in that moment when he was left alone with God that he got a revelation of who he really was, and he got a hold of what he could be. I preach to you students that we have got to learn that there
are some things that we've got to get alone with and wrestle with. There's some things that we've got to grab onto and say, I'm not letting go until something changes. Hear me. Change for Jacob didn't happen in a crowd.
No.
It happened when he was alone with God and admitted who he was and what he had been. It was in that moment that God gave him a revelation of who he could be. Hear me. Mom cannot get alone for you. Pastor can't get alone for you. If you are going to get a hold of God, it's going to have to be you getting alone with God. It's going to have to be you embracing the moments of struggle where the crowd isn't the one moving you. Where suddenly it's something inside of you that's pushing you forward, pushing you to grab a hold of something that you can't control and begin to reach up to God. Hear me, you've got to learn to pray when you're alone.
That's right.
You've got to learn to hold on when there's nobody else around you, because it is in the moments when you are alone with God that changes us. You want to know where Moses was when he received his calling? He was alone in the wilderness. John the Revelator spent 3.5 years walking with Jesus in a crowd of 11 others. But do you want to know where it was that he wrote the revelation of Jesus Christ? It was when he was alone with God on a prison island. I'm preaching to somebody today. You ask why you're the only one in your school living for God. You ask why you're the only one in your family coming to church. You ask why you're so alone. Maybe, just maybe, you've been left alone in this season for a reason, so that you can get a hold of God and allow the voice of God to begin to speak into your life. Fresh purpose and fresh anointing. We love getting together. We love our events. We love our crowds. There's nothing wrong with events. I love camps. I love convention. But can I tell you, you're not going to get what you need from God because there's a crowd. If you're going to get it, if you're going to allow the voice of God to speak into your life and into your spirit, it's going to be because you learned to get alone with God. Perhaps we are the greatest generation at knowing how to get together. Amen. We've never had bigger events. We've never had bigger rallies. We've never had bigger conventions. And yet suddenly I'm afraid that although we are so good at getting together in a crowd, that maybe we're not so good at getting alone with God. But if we're going to see God do in us and through us what He desires to do in this day, it's going to be through a generation that knows how to get alone with God. It's going to be a student that can push back the covers early in the morning and says, God, before I do anything else, I want to get alone with you. Come on, somebody. I'm preaching to somebody today that you've got to get a love and a burden for the touch of God in your life that would cause you to be willing to struggle, to wrestle with some things. Jesus was baptized, big crowd, angels, a dove that descended, voice from heaven. Pretty awesome service, if you ask me. Sounds kind of like maybe a youth convention. Everything's incredible. But then the Bible says that right after that, the Spirit led him into a wilderness. Literally, it's translated lonely region. No crowd, no John, no voice from heaven, no doves, just him, the Word, and not too surprisingly, the devil. Because he showed up in the season of loneliness. But some battles can befall one in the crowd. And I thank God for every camp and the crowd of people that gathers around on those days. But I preach to students today and tell you that the crowd can't get for you what only you can get when you get alone with God. And you begin to struggle with His Word. And you begin to struggle with your flesh. And you begin to struggle with the voice of God in your life. If you're going to be changed, if you're going to walk away differently, if you're going to begin to be answering to a different name than what has defined you your your entire life. It's going to be because you had a moment at an altar. Maybe there were hundreds around you, but it was just you and God. And you begin to talk to Him and pour your heart out to Him and grab a hold of Him. He began to speak into your heart and your life. Some of you leave the crowd of youth rallies and youth camps and you go back to lonely places. But I preach to you, there's power in those places. If you just only learn to get alone with God, can I tell you? And I don't say this to glorify myself because I'm a mess and always have been. But careful, Brother Nate, I got the mic. But I'd shout at youth camps, I'd shout at youth convention, and I'd go home to a family that didn't live for God, to a man that literally ran drugs up from Mexico to Tucson to Kentucky and had a big drug operation going on. That's the kind of life I was surrounded by all kinds of violence and terrible things. And yet I got to tell you, the only thing that sustained me and changed me was that in those moments when there was crowds and when there were words, that somehow God met me in the lonely places. And I've been willing to wrestle with Him and with His Word. I preach to you today. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what your past is. The only thing that matters is, are you willing to get alone with God? Are you willing to fight for some things? Are you willing to show us some things? Can I tell you, stand with me because I'm going to try to wrap this up. The battles with temptation, they're not won in a crowd. They're won alone with Jesus and His Word. Settling what you believe doesn't happen in a crowd. It happens when you're alone with Jesus. You feel seasons of loneliness will destroy you. But you ask Jacob, Moses, and Elijah, and Jesus. The season where you feel like you've been left alone, that's the season that defines you. You're not meant to live alone. You're not in this thing alone. But I preach to a generation and I tell you that you can't reject moments where you're left alone with God, because God wants to use those moments to define you. Every one of those moments are for a purpose. And you can either grab a hold of them, or you can walk away unchanged. If you're going to hold on to them, can I tell you the struggle's going to be real? When you walk away, you're probably going to walk a little different. You're probably going to answer to a different name. The struggle's real, but it's worth it. We need a generation of Joshuas. People that are willing to stay behind, to get alone with God when Moses leaves. People that say, I'm not alone here because my pastor called prayer meeting. I'm here because I've got to embrace this moment where I'm alone with God. Because I've been answering to some names that my dad didn't give me. I've been defined by my past, by yesterday. And I'm tired of being defined by those things. Because I want God to use me. I want God to bless me. I want God to order my steps. So I've got to be willing to embrace the struggle where I'm left alone. So I ask you today, students, you're surrounded by maybe 150 or so of your peers. But I want you to know that if you're willing, Jesus will lead you alone. If you'll block out the crowd and the moment and your past and the enemy and all the other voices in your life and say, God, I'm here. I'm willing to grab a hold of some things. I'm willing to fight for some things. I want to be changed by your Spirit. I'll tell you who I am and what I've been, but I need you to change my name. I need you to do something for me that I can't do for myself. I'm telling you, if we need one thing in this hour, it's young people who know how to struggle with God. Amen. And I don't mean fight against God. I mean grab a hold of Him and fight against your own flesh and your own weakness and all of the things that are inside of you that try to push you away. Say, no, I'm not going to be distracted. I know Facebook, well, not Facebook, you guys don't do Facebook, you hate that now. I know Snapchat's going to be waiting, but right now I'm alone with God. I know my friends are going to be waiting, but right now I've got to get alone with God because I sense that this moment is for a reason, that this struggle is for a purpose. Are you willing to get alone with God? Every head bowed, every eye closed. I hope I've made sense to you tonight. But I just believe, feel it in my spirit, that if you would ever learn to embrace the moments where you're alone with God, that you're not going to answer to the same name you used to answer to. You're not going to walk the same way you used to. You're not going to deal with the same temptations that you used to because you were willing to get alone with God. Would you just lift up your hands all over this house and begin to reach up to God? Come on, regardless of what the person beside you is doing, you're by yourself, just you and God. Come on, begin to open up your heart to God right now, Lord. You know where I'm at. You see what I've been facing. God, you see the season that I'm in, the struggle that I've been facing. But I sense that your presence is here. I want you to touch me, God. Come on, begin to reach up to God. Come on, you don't need another person laying hands on you. You just need to reach up to God right now. God, I need you. God, forgive me. Wash me, God. Cleanse me today. God, give me a burden. Give me a hunger for you. But help me, Lord, to yearn for your presence. God, to be desirous of your touch. Come on, are there any young people that would just step out of where you are right now and say, God, I don't care what anybody else around me is doing. I want you. I want your touch. I want your spirit, God. I want you to move on me in a fresh way. Come on, they're beginning to come. They're going to sing as they do. Would you begin to reach up to God? Come on, I feel the presence of the Lord here right now. Some are beginning to come and say, God, I'm willing. I'll hold on to it. I'll fight for it. I'll do what you call me to do, God. Come on, the presence of the Lord is here. Y'all begin to sing. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Come on, God's here. He says, if you'll seek me, you'll find me. I'm not far away from any one of you. Come on, your past doesn't separate you from God. Your mistakes don't separate you from Him. He said, you draw nigh to me, I'll draw nigh to you. You say, I'm going to meet you at this altar, God. He'll meet you. You can grab a hold of Him. You can feel His touch. Come on. Where's the young person that says, I'm getting a hold of God today. I'm getting a hold of His Spirit. Come on, God wants to speak a new name in your life today. God wants to speak fresh purpose over your spirit right now. Let those tears flow. Reach up to Him right now.
tonight you're not alone in this. Let the Spirit of the Lord moves in this house. There is liberty in this place. If there's somebody that needs a baptism of the Holy Ghost, you can get that thing tonight. If you need healing in your body, you don't have to leave here with the same affliction. Because God is here with us. Hallelujah. Or maybe you just need a fresh touch of God. Maybe you've had some struggles before you came to this service tonight, but you just heard a word from the Lord that you're not alone in this. If I'm talking to you, we're gonna just ask you to just lift your hands one more time. If you're saying, look, Lord, I know I've had my struggles, and I know that there's been some definitions beside my name, but I'm just going to leave it up to you, God, and I'm going to surrender it all to you, Lord, that I want my life changed tonight, that I want to be refreshed in the Spirit of the Lord, that I need you, God. I can't do this thing alone. God, you're my strength. You're my song. You're my salvation. You're my help. You're my strength in my time of weakness. You're the lily of the valley. You're the bright and morning star. I need you right now. Hallelujah. Would you look at a brother, look at a sister? Would you lay hands on them and pray with them and say, sister, I'm with you. Brother, I'm with you. We're going to touch God together. Touch the Lord, touch him, Jesus. Hallelujah. If you've got affliction, why don't you just say, Lord, I'm not going to allow this affliction to stop me anymore. Hallelujah. If you've got some struggles that's going on in your life, why don't you just go ahead and tell the enemy right now, I'm not going to be alone in this anymore. I'm going to get, Lord, the Lord is on my side. He is my strength. Hallelujah. There's some people all over this house that are facing situations and they're crying out to God right now. This is your opportunity. This is what Brother West was preaching about. This is your moment to get alone with God. Hallelujah. One more time before we dismiss, when we lift our hands all over this place again. Just embrace the power that we feel in this place. The Lord loves you. You may think no one else loves you, but the Lord loves you. The Lord cares about you. Hallelujah. Man, we love you, Jesus. Hallelujah. One more time, won't you just magnify the Lord? We love you. Hallelujah. I love you, Lord. I love you, Jesus. Despite of this, I love you, Jesus. Despite of what he brought you out of, he's still good. And he loved you while you was yet a sinner. And died for you anyways. Amen. Young people, that's good news. That's why they call it the gospel. Hallelujah. That's the good news tonight. Amen. And we appreciate every one of you that came out tonight, participated in the service. Take everything that you heard from Brother West and take it with you. Take it back to your home, take it back to your church, take it back to your school. Don't leave it here on a youth rally, but take it with you and let it minister to you every day. That you're not alone. We love you. God bless every single one of you.